I just watched Jesus Revolution. Is it any good? How many butter pumps will it get? Let's get into it.
My baby likes butter.
Hey my butter babies, I just watched the new movie Jesus Revolution and I have a lot of thoughts on it, so let's jump right on into it. This review is going to be a little different than other reviews I've posted because in this review I'm not going to talk as much about the movie and spoilers and such as much as I'm going to talk about the way the movie made me feel, the memories it brought up and the triggers it tripped in me, and how I left this movie feeling more of a religious outsider than I already do in most Christian spaces, which is a really strange claim to make, seeing the whole point of the movie was to say Jesus is for everyone, including outsiders like hippies. This movie takes place in Southern California during the late 60s and early 70s. In a broader sense, it talks about the Jesus movement of that time and how there was a huge revival of faith amongst young people, specifically hippies. The movement itself was short-lived, only lasting a few short years, but there have been long-lasting repercussions from that movement that remain part of the Christian evangelical DNA to this day. More specifically, it focuses on three men, Chuck Smith, Greg Laurie, and Lonnie Frisbee, played by Kelsey Grammer, Joel Courtney, and Jonathan Roumie, respectively. During the short-lived revival of the late 60s, early 70s, these three men personally baptized thousands of people on the shores of Pirate Cove in Southern California. This movie focuses on the respective stories and their journeys, all the while allowing the goings-on at Calvary Chapel to be the thread that binds the stories together. The movie is 2 hours long, and for the first hour it meanders. It's so slow. In that first hour, it sets all the groundwork for the several eventual conflicts that arise in the second half of this movie, but it takes its time doing it. Like I said, it meanders. The problem is, once the fuses are finally lit and the various conflict fires begin to explode in the second half, the way they are contained and eventually put out follows a very mundane, typical, no surprises here, way of storytelling. Very A plus B equals C. You could literally set your watch by it. It was so rote and so typical. The various conflicts should have been given more time to breathe and move and just be, instead of being resolved so quickly and so easily. This movie doesn't take any chances. It doesn't take any risks, and quite frankly, that has been the case with the majority of faith-based movies released since The Passion of the Christ jump-started the faith-based movie-going experience way back in 2004. Everything gets wrapped up in a pretty little bow at the end of the movie. And we're supposed to leave the theater all smiles, just like the characters on the screen whose problems individually have been whisked away as if they never existed in the first place, because Jesus. Speaking of Jesus, one of the problems with the movie is its one-size-fits-all kind of approach to Jesus, which again, by and large, is the same model used in evangelical Christianity today. Do you come from a broken home? Jesus is the answer. Got a problem with drug addiction? Jesus is the answer. Got a problem with labored breathing? Guess what? Jesus is the answer. Are you deaf in one ear? Well, you're in luck because Jesus is the answer. Are you a disabled war veteran with PTSD and a drug addiction? Well, you've come to the right place because Jesus is the answer. And yes, all of the above are actually in the movie and are magically solved by all involved by turning their lives over to Jesus and just a little bit of faith healing. It's so pat in its choose Jesus simplicity. In reality, it really sets people up for failure. For most of our problems don't magically disappear when we find Jesus. And when they don't disappear in a puff of smoke, many of us can become disillusioned by the faith itself, or somehow feel like we're not trying hard enough, which is a mental death spiral too many people find themselves trapped in. Which brings us to my main problem with the movie. In the movie, you get to see so many people transformed through this revival that's sweeping not only Southern California, but the United States and the world, really. You see many of those people being baptized in the Pacific Ocean, and everyone comes up from the dip clean and transformed. But I couldn't help but notice none of those people were queer. All of them went into the ocean cisgender and straight, and when they left the ocean clean and transformed, they were still cisgender and straight. While watching all of these beautiful transformations take place on screen, honestly, I was truly happy for everyone involved. But I also thought, I would not be welcome in that space at all. Which, as I said at the beginning of this video, is a really strange thing to say, seeing the whole point of this movie was to show how all people, including hippies, are welcome. That is, if you're willing to change, if you're willing to transform, if you're willing to be cisgender and straight. As if that was ever a choice to begin with. You see, butter babies, I'm gay. Shocker, I know. What's more, and this part is really, really crucial, I don't think there's anything wrong with being gay. In fact, I'm exactly the way God created me, and God don't make junk. God loves me fiercely and unconditionally, not in spite of me being gay, nor because I'm specifically gay. God loves me because I'm his son. He's proud of me. He's proud of the man I've become. He loves me deeper than anyone on earth could ever love me. So why would I want to change when in God's eyes I'm perfect and perfectly loved? And that mentality puts me in direct conflict with the evangelical church. And not just the evangelical church, but most Christian churches nowadays. The only way I'd be welcome inside an evangelical church is if I renounced my beautiful, perfect, God-given sexuality as sinful and pretend for the rest of my days to be straight. Since I'm unwilling to do that, I'm unwelcome in most Christian churches, including the evangelical ones. So I left the movie theater feeling every bit the Christian religious outsider I was before I stepped foot in it. As it turns out, I wasn't the only Christian religious outsider. Turns out, in real life, Lonnie Frisbee was gay. He died of AIDS-related complications in 1993. None of that is brought up in this film. It just says he died in 1993. Now, there are conflicting reports about how his sexuality was handled by the people closest to him, but it was an open secret in the Christian circles he traveled in that he was gay. But even though it was an open secret, it was also looked on as being immoral and sinful. Therefore, because of that perceived sin, and because he had outgrown his usefulness to bring more converts in, he was let go by Calvary Chapel and later thrown out of the Vineyard movement, another network of churches he helped grow. There's a whole other story out there about how Lonnie alleged that leadership in both churches used him to grow their numbers and then threw him out when he was no longer useful to them. What's even more interesting is that up until recently, his story had all been wiped clean from both the Calvary and the Vineyard Church, which kind of lends credence to Lonnie's allegations. His life story is fascinating. There's a documentary about his life called Frisbee, The Life and Death of a Hippie Preacher. I can't wait to watch. But I digress. If you are a cisgendered, non-queer, straight, practicing evangelical Christian, you may see yourself in this film. You may even enjoy it. It was created, after all, specifically for you. If you're none of those things, however, your mileage will vary. Personally, because the movie is a real mid-level kind of film, and because I outright reject its one-size-fits-all Jesus box, and because of how it confirmed the feeling I have about most modern Christianity today, which is all are welcome, except the queers, but if you're a hippie, come on in, but leave that faggot shit outside. I'm going to give this movie 0 butter pumps. 0. There is an audience for this movie, and it really hits all the sweet spots for that one particular niche audience. They will enjoy the heck out of this movie. So have at it, you guys. As for me, hard pass. So, butter babies, have you seen Jesus Revolution yet? If so, what did you think about it? How many butter pumps would you give it? I want to hear all about it in the comments section below. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing, butter babies. I really, really do appreciate you. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.